do you think that body dysmorphia may play a role in this? Like, do you feel like when you look in the mirror, like you're smaller than you think? Like, do you somehow feel like I'm not as lean as I want to be? Like, do you compare yourself to other people?
So with the way you saw my physique now, what's your opinion of it since last time? Like, I know you said like bigger, but
it's so much more muscle and there's more fullness, and it's like you have more glycogen in the muscle. So it's like it's a full pumped look. It's like, it just, like if I'd never met you ever, I'd be like, there's no way this guy's natural.
Yeah.
Like it would be like, no.
Yeah. So you'd say, because I remember I made a few like transformation posts and some people were like, oh, it's just different angles, different lighting. He's the same size that he was before. It's like people either say I'm blasting more, or it's like only two other polar ends of it.
Yeah, I get that. I've seen both posts. I'm like, you guys are going to shit on this guy to say he's a fake natty, and the other end you're going to say he didn't put any muscle after he admits to taking HRT. Yeah. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I got it. It's a different look. I feel like it's interesting to me, but yeah, I'm definitely down to like lowering it though.
Speaking of like having your dose at 100, you wanted to be cleaner, and cleaner we described as feeling like leaner, lighter, more agile, just being able to do stuff. At 100, you're going to feel cleaner than at 160 or 200, like without question. Like the way I described myself, not liking 195, like I could maybe do what you're doing, lower my dose. Like, why do I need to be 195? You know what I mean? How is that benefiting me? I felt good at 185. So the same arguments I'm using for you to lower your dose, you could say, well, Greg, why don't you lower your dose back, which makes sense. I always say the lowest dose that makes me happy, and I'm motivated by having more muscle, and you probably are also. But like, do you feel like you need to weigh 185, or would you be just as happy as 180? And do you think that body dysmorphia may play a role in this? Like, do you feel like when you look in the mirror, like you're smaller than you think? Like, do you somehow feel like I'm not as lean as I want to be? Like, do you compare yourself to other people?
Yeah, I never say like smaller. I never look at size. For me, I think it's the conditioning. So I think I look at like conditioning. I think I'm like fatter, holding more water. So that's why I'm not opposed to even lowering, because if I lose some water, it might
You'll look way leaner on a lighter dose.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. The first thing I noticed, like when I was at 100 for a while, and then I upped the dose, and I felt more puffy. And I mean, they all know I've done like 20 cycles. Yeah. When I was on test, and then I would cycle off. So I do a cycle for like 3 or 4 months, and then I would go off for like 3 months or whatever. And I do that back and forth. And when I went off a month later, I always look better. I look better off because I shed that water retention. And my puffy face, like when I look back at my old photos, I'm like, how the frig did I look like that? Yeah. I was ripped with the abs and everything, and I had this moon face, and it's just like steroids converting estrogen. I just look bad.
So you'd say even lowering from that 160 to 100, I would notice like the loss of water weight?
A lot. I think that you would look better and feel better and be healthier, and all these things that the HRT clinics and whatnot would say, like, take this supplement, add this, take less gummies, be like, take 20 freaking gummies, double the gummies. It's like, I don't think it's gonna be a problem. I think if you lower the test, you're gonna be leaner, more shredded, and your HDL is gonna certainly go up, and your LDL will go down, your LDL HDL ratio will be perfect. I feel like it's a no-brainer, like it's almost like I feel like we're in an intervention here. It's like, let's get Alex to do 100 milligrams.
So do that, get it retested, and then what? My main concern, I guess, is so what if the being on 100 and then like my blood, like the concentration comes back?
Oh yeah, that was the thickness of your blood was too high as well. Your hematocrit, like you mentioned, you might need to donate blood.
Oh yeah,
these are not things that are when you're on replacement doses. Like I don't have any of these issues. Like a replacement dose, like HRT, like TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. If you're replacing what your body should,
you shouldn't have to do anything extra.
You shouldn't have to take polypharmacy, which would be like adding in Nolva, Arimidex, or statins, or anything to have to like
compensate for the test. Yeah, that makes sense.
You should just be on test. Nothing else should be needed.
So don't donate. Shouldn't have to donate blood or any of that stuff.
Yes, and just think, you're 24. Like if you're on 100 milligrams for the next 5 years, and you just feel awesome, and then when you turn 30, and you're like, you know what? I want to be 185 again, or 190, say, and then you go up to 120, and then 140, and then when you're my age, you're like 50, you're like, hey, I'm on 200 now, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're on 200, or even like we're at 160, what do you do in 10 years from now? Because like you're young, and you're going to grow muscle really quickly, but when you're my age, like man, it's almost like a battle against falling apart.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
I feel like you need to up the dose to
over
keep
time.
the same physique.
Yeah, that makes sense as you get older. Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to lowering it 100%. I just, what if my testosterone comes back like low or like 600 to 700 and I start to, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll feel good at that. I guess I'll just have to go off base the results are, how I feel. I just want to make sure I still feel like the benefits from better sleep, better mental clarity, no brain fog, like sex drive, like just all I feel driven, motivated to like work more than I ever have. Like I love, that's like the main things I feel like I've noticed, like better mental health, all that from being where I'm at now versus before. So I just want to make sure like I would assume it is, because it's not like that much lower, I feel like.
I totally get that, because testosterone makes working hard feel better.
Yeah.
Like when I'm on a bike on test and I'm doing like 1,000 watts or 1,000, whatever, like, you know, just burn up some calories. On test versus like, I went off HRT for 9 weeks once, just as a thing, they said from elbow. But anyway, when your test is really low, it just doesn't feel as good to go hard. Yeah. And studying isn't as easy. It's like you're more manly, you feel like you can do things more. It gives you that little slight aggression almost to do what you need to do.
It's like a healthy aggression. I think it's like it's like an assertiveness that's like healthy. But I think that's like the main thing I've noticed from it, and that's like been the best thing.
We got to get that personality test. The 16 personality test. I forget what it was, ETNJ or whatever it was. But you'll do that, and it says like, how aggressive are you versus this and that. It's like, it's interesting. You got to do that test.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what I would.
Maybe you're just the test is making you a bit more, I don't know, like a commander like me and Hussein here, a bit more like in your face telling you. Yeah,
before I would say
without being nervous about hurting.
Yeah, so I used to be very passive and like non-confrontational. I think now I'm so much more, but not like an aggressive, like it's not no roid rage. Like it's more just like I'll say what I feel usually, like especially in public. Won't let things just like kind of slide by. Like I'll feel like I can say my point, less passive, more assertive. I think I've noticed that big time. It's like I feel like I'm not hindering myself or acting like a little, I guess I'll call it being a bitch, like low key when your test is lower.
The thing is too, it's like it's not always good to be this personality. Like I come across as a lot, like in my personality, like when people meet me in person, they usually say you're a pretty normal, chill guy. But like in my personality on camera, people are like, this is an asshole. And I'm like, why do you think like that? But I think it's because I will say things even though it'll hurt someone's feelings, because I really value honesty and accuracy versus somebody like Marie. We did her personality test, and hers was like the nurturing, nice person, the mom. I don't want that person's feelings to be hurt. And so we're like opposites in that sense. So it's not bad that you're that personality. It's not, no person is technically bad per se. Like they all have their strengths and weaknesses. I just have to understand, I could be more empathetic of caring of people's feelings versus just like trying to be right all the time. But like you have to measure that. But now that I'm aware of it, then you're like, okay, do I really need to be this hard on that person when I tell them something just to be right? Like, is being right that important? Do you know what I mean? Like,
being self-aware of it's big. But I was talking to my dad about like, my dad recently hopped on TRT. He's doing 140 a week, and he hopped on about 2 months ago. And he's been saying how the biggest things he notices right now are just been all mental so far, like the mental clarity and all that. But I think one of the things I'm pretty shook by, though, is how much size / like the fact that I'm like holding like 185, 187 and I have like ab veins is like, to me, like Alex before, I had to be like 170 to get to that. So that's why I'm pretty shook how off of what I believe isn't, in regards to the whole world of like steroids, is not a lot in terms of like, for me to be able to put on that in the short amount of time that I've been on, to me seems pretty kind of like.
There's genetics for like having aesthetics physique. There's genetics for putting a lot of muscle natural. There's genetics for putting a lot of muscle with low doses, and there's your genetics for putting a lot on with high doses. I put on, like you, a lot of muscle with hardly anything. Like if I'm on 100 or 200 milligrams of test a week, I look like you, like I completely transform. Like if I went totally natty, I think I'd lose like 10, 15 pounds of muscle. Like within a year, I'd be way smaller. But when I did 10x the doses I'm doing now, it didn't really build that much more muscle. And in my head, I'm like, oh man, if I just triple my doses, I'm going to be on the Mr. Olympia stage. And then I did it and it didn't happen. I'm like, all right, well, I'll triple it again. And it was just like, it's not working. So different people use a little bit of drugs and then they just get blown up. Other people, low doses, hardly any results. Massive doses, hardly any results.
It's it's a case-by-case basis.
I've seen guys use very high doses of test and train for a year and put on 8 pounds of muscle. And I'm like, how do you only put 8? I would have done that in the first month. But it's just genetics.
What's like the big, I don't know if you're allowed to talk, but what's like the most amount of gear you ever took, like grams wise, or like what the
3,000 total for a week.
Okay.
But I was like, the worst. See, like every gram isn't the same. Like Trent is 3 times as strong as Tess in terms of how much muscle builds. So when I took 700 tests for a week, that would be like taking 2,100 milligrams of test. But I couldn't handle it. I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
Like I was on the highest dose that my body could handle. That was like one of my cycles I did. And so I had to lower it to 500 because I couldn't sleep. I was getting transomnia. I was like sleeping 2 or 3 hours a night, sweating through my
terrible.
sheets.
Yeah.
And you have this anxiety all the time. Like your heart feels like there's something inside your heart that's beating. And I'm like, I need to get off this cycle. And I'm like, oh shit, the contest is 7 weeks away. I have to do this for 7 weeks. Like, so when I'm on low doses, like HRT, like we're on, I feel good. Like always feel good. When I was on those doses, I was like, I hate it. I hate how I feel. I don't like how I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like you've probably seen like Mike Isertel talk about like how he felt rage and didn't understand. Like I know what he's talking about because like on very high doses of halotestin and oral really strong, like you get angry. Like it's not
messes
good.
with you mentally.
It
that
does.
makes sense.
Now, when I was on, with 100 milligrams of test versus like your dose right now, you're gonna feel just as good. The mental, like the clarity and all that stuff, you're in that normal range. I think anything from like say 500 to 1,000, you're probably gonna feel fairly similar. It's not like you're gonna lower the 100 and you're gonna be like, I have no sex drive now, brain fog and insomnia. Like that's not gonna happen at 500.
Yeah, it won't change that much. That makes sense.
My test range is 550 to 765, in that range, and I feel pretty good all the time. Now I used to do my shots once a week, and by the last 2 days before my next shot, I had to lower sex drive a little bit.
You would
I could
notice
feel
it
it
a little bit,
because
yeah.
like the test raises up for like 2 or 3 days, and then it starts dipping, and then I'd be like, oh, I really want the next shot, because then a couple days, like then I feel good again.
You do twice
now
a
I do
week
it
now?
twice. Well, I do it every 4 days.
Okay.
So it works out almost twice a week, twice every 8 days.
Yeah.
And now I feel steady. There's no time in the week that I feel better or worse.
Yeah.
So for me, that works.
I like that. I think that's one of the biggest things I've noticed. Even when you're in that natural, like when you say you're in that 500 to 700 range, there still is that added benefit of like having versus someone who's naturally at that, of having the same level. Even if you have a bad night of sleep, even if you have anxiety,
Right.
you still always have that same level, which is what I like a lot. Because obviously when you're natural, if you have like a shitty night of sleep, like your test is probably cooked the next day.
Yeah.
What's your like series of steps? I see a lot of guys, especially asking me now on like Snapchat or whatever, and they're like saying that they're like 20 or 23, they got their testosterone check, they were feeling like not, they weren't feeling good, and their stuff was in like 200, 300 like nanograms per deciliter. What would you say is like, what do you think what they should do, and like when is the point where they should be like, all right, I'm gonna do the HRT world? Like what do you think they should do first, and like what does it come to going to the HRT?
Before using HRT, I would use enclomiphene, because to me, HRT is for life. It's a commitment. And clomiphene could be like a temporary fix in your year. It's almost like, I don't know, it's like it's less of a commitment. So I would say if somebody is like, I might need to use ART, well, why not try to fix everything first
and then see.
But if they're already like, I'm deciding I'm using ART, they got the test with them right there, maybe hold off and just using clomiphene first and see if that's enough, because then you might be able to skip that. But aside from that, like you should go get your blood work done and see where you're at, and then get your blood work again done 2 or 3 months later and see where you're at again. Because that blood work on one day, it's a snap picture. You could be low, you could be 250, but then maybe you're at 500 a month later.
Yeah.
So you might have just not eaten for a week. You might be just stressed out. You might have a lot of reasons why it's very low.
I think you got to get checked multiple times, like to see what you're truly at.
My prescription was given me when I had 47 nanograms per deciliter, and then I was retested 3 months later, and I was 49. And that's when they prescribed me test.
Oh,
so I went
you weren't
like
on it
6
yet,
months where I was like under 50. The
was
doctor's
probably
like, how do
awful.
you have that much muscle? I'm like, doc, I lost 20 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
Like, you just seen me before kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like I still had plenty left, and I was still training. Like I felt okay, but like sex drive, definitely like maybe wanting it once a week versus twice a day,
Still,
like
that's
on
awful.
these crazy cycles.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's brutal.
awful. Below 50, I don't know what I'll do, bro. That's terrible.